There are two objectives to balancing a foil. The first one is to get the front wing at the midpoint between the rear and front foot straps. The second objective is to, as a starting point, set the mast base at 44 inches in front of the leading edge of the foil, at the point at which the foil plugs into the board. So I'm talking about this spot right there. And in the case of this foil, and I know also in the case of the starboard GT, this point is about 1 inch further forward than the fin screw. And we'll use that later. So how do we do this? Okay, first of all, let's mount the foil into the board. So now I have the foil mounted to the board with all the screws fully tight as though I was going to sail it. Now, in my case, I had to use a drywall right angle tool because you can see in the picture here that the mast is raked forward on the AFS2. We don't know what the rake is on other foil manufacturers, but I think most of them are pretty close to being 90 degrees. This one is raked forward, but if you want to do your measurements, you need to come up with a standard reference point, which should be 90 degrees straight up from where the mast enters the board. And you can see that I have set up the tool to be right at the leading edge of the mast and then projecting straight up, and I made the little silver mark on the fuselage, which is the 90-degree straight up point. Then I measure forward from that to get to the midpoint of the front wing. In this case, it's about 10 1/4 inches. Then I can project back down and make a mark, although I don't really need this mark because I'm not measuring it here, but I've still got 10 1/4 inches on the board from the front of from the leading edge of the mast. Since I know that the leading edge of the mast is 1 inch forward of the fin screw, that will make the center point of the front wing 11 1/4 inches in front of the fin screw. So now we've turned the board back upright, and I now know that the center of lift on the front wing should be 11 inches or 11 1/4 inches in front of the front fin screw. So I make that measurement and make a mark there and call that the center of lift. That is the point at which the front wing should be very close to the center line between the rear foot strap and the front foot strap, probably plus or minus 10%. If you have the ability to adjust your foot straps on your board, move them back and forth until that center point, that center line, center of lift, is at about the midpoint. If you can't move the foot straps, which I cannot move on this board, and you have the ability to use maybe a power plate, you can move the whole foil forward or backward with the power plate until you get to the point where the center of lift is at the midpoint between the front and rear foot straps. That's the first objective, is figure out how to get that wing between the foot straps, very close to the midpoint. Then I have found in my experiences that the next important step is to set the mast base of the board at 44 inches in front of the leading edge, which in my case is 45 inches in front of the front screw. So for my board, that's 45 inches in front of the front screw. I measure 45 inches forward of that and make a mark on my mast track. It's right there at 45 inches, and I've marked that as 44 inches in front of the leading edge or 45 inches to the front fin screw. For me, this is a perfect balance position. Your board may be a little different, but I would recommend this as a starting point. 44 inches in front of the mast leading edge, 45 inches in front of the, in my case, the fin screw, because the fin screw is 1 inch aft the leading edge. So here's what the whole thing looks like, and it's hard to visualize the wing from under the board, which is why we did those measurements to translate the wing position from under the board to the top of the board. So that wing position is right here at the center of lift, exactly halfway between the front and rear foot straps, and the mast base is 44 inches in front of that of the mast leading edge. I recommend this as a starting point for your balance, and I think if you can get this, it will speed up your learning process quite a bit, because you won't be fighting against a board that is out of balance.